Hi, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I want to talk to you about what's going on with NATO. The conflict in the Middle East may just have taken a very significant step to a much wider international crisis because for the first time since this escalation began, a NATO member state has been directly drawn into events. Turkey has confirmed that a ballistic missile fired from Iran was intercepted by NATO air defence systems as it approached Turkish airspace over the eastern Mediterranean. The missile never reached its target. It was destroyed before entering Turkish territory, and there were no casualties. But the significance of this incident is not the damage it caused. It's the implications of what might have happened if it hadn't been intercepted, because Turkey is now discussing the possibility of invoking NATO's Article 4 and potentially even raising the question of Article 5. And if you're wondering what those are, we'll come on to talk about it. And if NATO were ever drawn into this conflict directly, it would dramatically change the scale of what we're currently seeing unfold. So in this video, let's look at what actually happened, why NATO's defences were involved, what Article 4 and Article 5 actually mean, and why this development could have very serious geopolitical consequences. According to the Turkish Defence Ministry, a ballistic missile launched from Iran was tracked travelling across Iraq and Syria before heading towards Turkish territory. The missile was detected by NATO's integrated early warning systems and intercepted by missile defence systems operating in the eastern Mediterranean. The interception destroyed the missile before it could enter Turkish airspace, although debris reportedly landed in Turkey's southern Hatay province. Turkish officials have not confirmed what the intended target was. But the key issue here is that the missile was heading towards a NATO member state, which immediately raises serious questions under the NATO treaty. Turkey, of course, has its own air defence systems, but it's also fully integrated into NATO's joint air and missile defence network, which links radar systems, naval defence, platforms and interceptor missiles operated across the alliance. That means when a ballistic missile is detected approaching NATO territory, the system can respond collectively. The missile can be tracked across multiple countries and intercepted by whichever system is best positioned to take it out. That appears to be exactly what happened in this case. The missile was detected early, tracked across the region and destroyed before it could reach Turkish airspace. Now let's talk about Article 4 because this is where things get particularly important. Under the NATO treaty, member states have several mechanisms they can use if they believe their security is under threat. The first of these is Article 4, which allows any NATO member to request consultations with the rest of the alliance if they believe their territorial integrity, political independence or security is threatened. If Turkey invokes Article 4, it would trigger formal discussions between all NATO members about the situation and how to respond. This doesn't automatically lead to military action, but it does place the issue firmly on NATO's agenda and signals that a member state believes the situation is serious. Article 4 has been used before in moments of rising tension, particularly by countries close to conflict zones. So let's talk about Article 5. Which is NATO's collective defence principle. It states that an attack on one member of the alliance is considered an attack on all members. If Article 5 were invoked, NATO countries would be expected to assist that member that's been attacked. That assistance could include military forces, weapon systems, intelligence support, or other forms of defence. In NATO's entire history, Article 5 has only been invoked once, after the September the 11th attacks in 2001, so it is an extremely serious step. At the moment, there is no indication that NATO is considering triggering Article 5 in response to this incident, but the fact that a ballistic missile was intercepted heading towards NATO territory means the conversation is now happening. And the reason this matters is simple. If a NATO member state were directly attacked, and Article 5 were invoked, the alliance could become actively involved in the conflict with Iran. That would mean potentially 32 countries being drawn into the situation, including the United States, which is obviously already involved, the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Canada, and many others. NATO collectively represents the largest military alliance in the world, so any scenario where NATO becomes involved would dramatically escalate the scale of the conflict. Now, there is an interesting geopolitical angle to this situation because Turkey has often taken a very independent position within NATO. During the war in Ukraine, Turkey has not joined in Western sanctions against Russia. Instead, it's maintained economic ties with Moscow and positioned itself as a mediator between Russia and Ukraine. Turkey has frequently tried to balance its relationship between Western allies and countries such as Russia and Iran. But now that a missile has been intercepted heading towards Turkish territory, the situation looks very difficult because if Turkey feels threatened, it can turn to the collective protection of the NATO alliance. And that highlights the strategic reality of NATO membership. Countries may pursue their own foreign policies, but the alliance still provides a powerful security guarantee when tensions escalate. The broader concern here is that the conflict is already spreading across the region. Missiles and drones have been launched across multiple countries in the Middle East, and military action are no longer confined to a single battlefield. The interception of this missile shows just how easily the situation could spill beyond the immediate conflict zone. Even if this particular missile was not deliberately targeting Russia, the fact that it was heading in that direction demonstrates how quickly events can escalate. And once NATO countries start becoming directly involved, the risks increase dramatically. So at this stage, the situation remains contained. The missile was intercepted, no lives were lost, and NATO has not been drawn directly into the conflict. But the fact that an Iranian ballistic missile was destroyed while heading towards NATO territory is a major development, because it shows just how close this crisis could come to expanding beyond the Middle East. And if NATO were ever drawn directly into the conflict, it would mark a completely new phase, one with potentially enormous geopolitical and economic consequences. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's video, you found it useful, informative, and most importantly, thought-provoking. That's what I'm trying to do, provoke some thoughts. If you have liked what I've said, then please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, because it helps with the algorithm and puts a smile on my face. Don't forget, I'm currently running a competition where you can win my property or a cash alternative prize, another way of funding the channel. So if you'd like to get involved in that, please scan the QR code now on the screen or click the link in the description below. Thank you so much to everyone that supported me in other ways. If you bought me a coffee or sent me a YouTube super thanks or signed up as a patron or a member, I really appreciate that support. Thank you so much. Really helps to keep me going. And here's something to put a smile on your face.